We want to make this quite interactive, so I'm going to ask you in a way to perhaps to hand over to Mr. Popposki, who is the Foreign Minister of Macedonia. I'll ask you a straight question because I can do that. I'm a journalist, I'm not a diplomat. When you said that certain countries were thinking of national agendas about European agendas and perhaps to the detriment of the European future, were you referring to Macedonia? Perhaps you'd like to ask that to Mr. Popposki.
Not only.
Not only. Okay, well that's what it is, so he was referring to you. What are you going to do about it? Is it true and what are you going to do about it?
Sorry?
Is it true and what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to re-energise your European future?
Perspectives are completely different from where you're sitting. So I think that the vision from 2,000 kilometers away can be a completely different one than being on the spot. However, I would tend to believe, being an economist by education, that we should find a balance somewhere in between. Number one, in the region, including Macedonia, to focus on things that really matter. Several member states are mentioning that the best potential for making reforms is while you're a candidate country, which implicates something else. That when you're a member state, the motivation for performing or doing reforms would decrease over time. I don't want to believe that, but the factual thing is that when you're a candidate, you do things that you wouldn't be able to do once you have the comfort of the membership in the European Union. Justice is probably one of the most sensitive things. I think one of the best decisions has been to shift the attention to that area. Why? We need desperately economic development in the Balkans. You cannot have that unless you have a predictable judicial system. We all inherited a system where judiciary was dominated by parliaments that used to have one single party. We're all shifting in the direction of having the professional judiciary, and that is something that we have done together with the Commission, and only thanks to the process of accession. That has been extremely lengthy. Two, infrastructure. I do agree with the assessment that we will join the European Union that is going to be different from the one in the past and then from the one that is existing already today, unless we have better infrastructure, roads, motorways, railways, energy sector, etc. We are not going to be in a position to attract investments and to develop, because each one of the countries in the region is a tiny little piece that does not have the potential to have a larger growth on its own. So opening up and having better infrastructure. Last but not least, people. This is the largest asset in the region. We have to invest much more in education, and we have to be investing in competitive areas. As I said, the balance is important. Member states are on the other side of this balance. Number one, I think that we need to beat the political myth that existed. Difficult to decide with 27, probably a little bit more difficult with 28. Many assume that it will be practically impossible with 30 plus. I tend to believe the opposite. We all have the same interest, we just need to put the emphasis on what really matters, and it's not going to be difficult with more. Economically, new member states, the assumption in current member states are going to bring extra problems. Not true. Macroeconomic stability, financial system stability is much better in some of the candidate countries than it is in some of the member states. Therefore, we should not assume that problems will grow. And three, change of culture. Europeans, whether we are in candidate countries or in member states, we have a culture of reacting always when there is a fire in the house. I think we need a little bit more of entrepreneurial spirit, something that we might get as inspiration from our transatlantic friends across the ocean, meaning we need to take action sometimes before the fire spreads. And that means real engagement and taking risks. In financial terms, the riskiest thing to do on the financial market is not to do anything. It's better to make even a tricky decision buying or selling than not to do anything. I think this is the highest risk. Thank you very much.
All right. I mean, in terms of candidate status, I take the point that becoming a candidate is the most important thing. You've been stuck up for the very familiar reasons that we all know. There's been some diplomacy around the name issue in the last couple of weeks and months. Personally, I'll stop reading it. I'll read it when it happens. But is there any? Should I be reading it? Is there any reason to believe that it might happen anytime soon?
It's probably not the first time that we are hearing that. I don't think that is going to help us to spread pessimism or optimism on that issue. What we desperately need is really to focus on the issue, to use all our energy, and not to use the comfort of being a member state in extensive blocking of Macedonia. I hope that there is a way forward. I cannot predict whether it's going to happen today, tomorrow, or at all. But the most important thing is that the European agenda, and in this case I agree with Commissioner Kula, should be put above the national one. Assumption number one, not blocking and making hostage situations with candidate countries only because you're in the bloc.
Right. Well, this is an issue we could debate for another 20 years. So I will just, so we have limited time, I'm going to move over now straight to Mr. Salini, Patrick Salini, the Deputy Foreign Minister from Kosovo, who's standing in for Enver Hoxha, who of course had to go back to Brussels for this round, which should have begun 7 minutes ago in Brussels. Tonight, there's as part of the dinners that have been organised, there's a dinner and you'll be there and you'll be in discussion with Serbia's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mirmir Vudovic. Do you think that we'll be able to break out champagne tonight as part of the continued dialogue, or what's your assessment? And